Hello everybody, and Carlos here to a brand new episode. I'm babifly, and today we are playing Heart of the Forest in the Werewolf the Apocalypse universe. It's a game developed and published by Different Tales and The Walkabout, and it's a game about telling a story of a werewolf and all the different choices that we can face throughout our game, throughout our playthrough. So let me just lower the music a bit, because it can be quite difficult. Yeah, I think we are okay. I'll just slid it a bit down, and now I'm ready. So let's step right into it. Let's click on the new game and see what the game has to offer us. I really do like storytelling games. I really do like supernaturals in general. So this is a perfect amalgam of these two for me. So we're in the prologue, premonition. Start the chapter. I really don't know what to expect. I haven't played the game as of yet, so it's a learning experience for me too. So this is a game about rage and how it helps us do things that need to be done, as well as things that we later regret. Sometimes both. How do you feel about that? Great, I'm always angry. I'm okay with anger when it's useful. Well, I prefer to think before I act. I'm definitely not that kind of person. I'm okay with anger when it's useful. That's my premise, but I try to combat that as well. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be okay with that choice. So my rage has increased. Your rage is balanced. So you're the critical and analytical type? That's okay. There's no right path here. Just your decisions and their consequences. I get it. My decisions need to be fair and just. Let's just follow the path and see where it takes us. Yeah. Let's see. The forest. Spiritual. Willpower, health. June 20 in the morning. I'm in the Krynos form, so... Well, the game is based on the Werewolf the Apocalypse game. And if that's correct, then the Krynos form is supposed to be a werewolf's final form. But we'll get to that when we play. So the forest, the woods are full of stars. They flicker, come closer, run away. They want me to chase them, to play hide and seek. I observe. No, I hide. They dance around the tree trunks, float up on the gusts of wind that shiver through the branches, disappear among the leaves. I hide, but they bunch up and fly toward me like an arrow. Rushing down, they are soon upon me, but just before the spear of light pierces my breast, they disappear and the dark of the night returns. Balanced. Indicates that this version of the story happened because of your current stats. Cool. In the darkness, I feel the tangled... Because my rage is balanced. In the darkness, I feel the tangled roots of stories keeping the forest alive, and I hear the spirits asking me to judge the enemy. I open my eyes, and then I wake up. Cold and alone, confused, I open my eyes. The forest around me is thick, dark, and reeks of decay, to such an extent that it's hard to breathe. I recognize this forest. I know this place. I've been dreaming about this forest since I was a child. The tree trunks, wrapped tightly in dark-leaved ivy, are covered in ripple of lichen where the vines haven't taken hold. The thorny, leafless bushes at their base are overrun with nettles. The fungi radiate with a ghoulish, sickly green light. Dark, sponge-like mushrooms cling to the fallen trees. I try to breathe. I take a deep breath and suddenly realize that it's not the forest that smells so foul, it's me. Maia, homemade. Okay. I look down and see my hands covered in a dark substance. I'm naked. A sticky, glistening film of liquid is clinging to my skin. I can feel it on my face, in my hair. Blood. I'm alert. Nature is never quiet. The leaves rustle in the wind. Small creatures scuttle in the undergrowth. There is a whisper. I don't understand what it means, but the word resonates in my head. Garou. Who said that? There's a severed head right in front of me. Some choices are hard to make and they strain your willpower. So I have 2 willpower. So either I lose rage or I lose willpower. I wince and touch it. Overcoming my disgust, I gently touch its wet hair and watch as the head topples over. The face is contorted, the eyes bulging, the mouth open as though the head were still struggling for air. I bolt because I recognize who it is, and then eyes open in the darkness. I'm gonna pause for a minute just to admit that the art style is fantastic. It's phenomenal. I really like this splash art thing that I see here. I like the fact that it radiates both violence and supernatural gore and horror. I really sense that the game is gonna be quite fantastic when it comes to conveying the storytelling atmosphere that I've signed up for. So let's say, then the eyes open in the darkness. Who is it? I can see their silhouettes, shades of jet black against the darkness. They smell of fur and moss and bloodied earth. Massive creatures, some with horns, some with antlers. Their eyes burn like small, fiery windows into hell. I look at them and something wakes inside me. Since I'm balanced in rage, I can choose sadness, and so I will. So just to let you know that I'm gonna follow up my the characters' RP and play style wherever we go. So keep up with that, and let's see how we can role play our character as acutely as we can. So we are overcome with the feelings of sadness. Okay, inspiring, brave, and spiritual. They tell me stories of their lost battles and dying hopes, and I sing with sorrow. I sit and listen and cry with them. Then I swear to punish those who have wronged them. In a moment of clarity, I almost understand what the forest wants from me. And then I wake up. Whoa. Such a nice prologue, really. It was but a dream, right? So the chapter 1 is called Arrival. Let's start it. I really like the moving background, like, you know, the dust falling, the things that you see from the window here, because we're in a bus, right? Dreams. Maia, wake up! I jerked upright, irritated. My neck was stiff and the movement sent a sudden, sharp wave of discomfort through my body. I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in a bus. The sun streaming through the windows was making it hard to see. The girl next to me was touching my shoulder, disturbed. So we got reduced rage. This rage describes our supernatural anger. Be careful when we do. High rage allows Maia to overcome many obstacles, but also makes her aggressive and hard to control. Willpower is a pool of points that she can spend to perform actions that are difficult for Maia. Particularly, willpower can be used to prevent the effects of high rage. We can regain such when we pursue our goal, and when our willpower reaches 0, we are impaired and unable to perform hardened mental and social actions. This is actually too accurate to the original system developed by Werewolf. And I really like the fact that the game keeps up with the original system. I really like it, to be honest with you. Health is our life force. When your health goes down to 0, you're impaired and unable to perform hard physical actions. So the moon phase is the waxing gibbous, and we all know that being a werewolf, the moon phase matters when you're a werewolf. Jesus, today I do swear that it's a no English day. And we are playing as Maia Boroditch. This is our character sheet. We are 24 years. We are a student. We are American. This is our bravery, inspiration, analytical, and spiritual, and canning, our personality, mind and body. Our condition is healthy. Cool. And we are in homid form. That's humans. But then again, the game won't let you know that as of now. So the girl next to me was touching my shoulder, disturbed. I don't want to lose willpower. I'll just push her away. I'm sorry. Without a second thought, I pushed her away, adrenaline surging through me. When your rage is high, you might say and do things you later regret. What's wrong with you? She recoiled, looking hurt and scared. It was a while before she said anything. You were crying in your sleep. I blinked. The memory of the dream was still there, and the wet stench of decay. I was glad I wasn't alone. Thank you for coming with me, I said. The girl next to me shrugged. Her name was Anya. We'd met a couple of weeks earlier on the orientation day. She was from Norway, a tall, broad-shouldered, calm person who wore her long hair in braids. Somehow I'd managed to talk her into this crazy field trip across the land of my ancestors. Anya is cautious. We were here to study medicine, or she was having second thoughts. Okay. Let's see. Anya reached into her backpack and took out an apple. She turned away from me and bit into the fruit. I reached into my bag and fished out a bunch of cabanossi, dried meaty sausages that were so much better than the original Polish ones back in the US. Anya still looked like she regretted meeting me. People often did, actually. Girl, you are a lot to handle, she said after a lengthy silence. I'm not sure if I have the bandwidth for so much drama in my life. This trip was my idea. Our summer language course was starting in a few weeks, and I'd managed to talk Anya into skipping the tours of concentration camps and old churches and visiting Bialowieza National Park with me instead. Remind me, why are we here again? She asked with her arms crossed. That's a good question. Why were we there? There being Bialowieza, a small village in northeast Poland near the border with Belarus. It was famous for its national park, the very last European bison, and according to a quick web search, occasional tensions between far-right troublemakers and the local Belarusian community. The most honest answer would have been, because I've been dreaming about the forest in Bialowieza since I can remember, but people didn't understand when I said things like that. I looked her in the eyes. So when we hover over that, the game has a nice tooltip that we find in modern day games. The tooltip that actually gives you access to more information, including the way that this word is pronounced, Białowieza. Cool. So is a village in Poland's Podlasie province in the middle of the Białowieza forest, for which it is named. I kept it simple so I wouldn't freak her out. I taught her as much as I could. I kept it simple. I looked her in the eyes. I'm looking for my roots. I kept it simple so I wouldn't freak her out. What I didn't tell her was even more important. I knew my family was from there. None of my relatives spoke about it though. There were a lot of things that weren't spoken about in my life. Strange dreams that plagued me. Half-forgotten tales about forests and wolves that I had heard before my mom took me, ran away, and cut off all contact with my dad and his family. I waited for her to respond. Anya felt silent for a moment, but she still looked like she regretted coming with me. I think we should split up for a while, she said finally. I already have a list of places I want to see. I'll just slow you down. What a nice way to say fuck off. And that was precisely why I needed to do something, anything about my future, that damned forest and my weird-ass family. I had a clear goal in mind. I wasn't there by mistake. I'd planned this trip for months with a clear goal in mind. I had to learn the truth about my roots. My goal, mystery, learn my family history. My grandfather's stories, the secrets my mother running away, there was a mystery in the past. It was time I uncovered the truth about who I was. but now I wasn't so sure if it had been a good idea. Let me check. Do I still have that? Yeah. I have a mind. So my goal mystery is to learn my family history and pursue it to regain willpower. Now my relations with Anya have deteriorated to a cautious level, and my family, it's a complicated thing. So I really like the fact that the character sheet gets updated as soon as we're playing. It's actually the way that I want to play games, storytelling ones, that get me involved in the game and in my character creation as well. So I also respect the fact that the game respects my pace, and it offers me that arrow down here so as to be able to click it whenever I feel like it and proceed to possibly the next chapter or the next scene. Yeah, I really like that. Welcome home. Anya took her luggage and disappeared as soon as we got off, leaving me at the deserted bus stop. She left. Wow. Białowieża looked like an overexposed photo of a village with a contrast turned all the way up. The sun wasn't just shining, it was shouting at the earth, and everything, the trees, the grass, the wooden houses, the fences, seemed weathered. Everything except the shadows. They were sharp, as though they were freshly printed with the darkest of inks. Keep in mind that this game takes place in the World of Darkness setting, which is a mirror universe of our own, but with a much more gothic atmosphere. So just imagine that everything is a bit over the top when it comes to despair and goth in general. So the shadows are much more tangible. The darkness is much more intense. The sun is not shining bright, but just doesn't offer warmth, but just lights up your path, illuminates your path, but up to an extent. It's a world where supernaturals live and coexist with humanity, and the humans know little to nothing about them. It's a rather interesting setting, and in my life as a person, as a gamer, I have indulged in this kind of gaming for almost 20 years. And I'm so happy that I actually did so, because it, in some sort of form and sense, it also offers it extends your storytelling horizons, and it also helps you as a person, find your balance and understand some facets in your life and everything. So that's it. This psychoanalysis class is over, so let's get back to the game. Thanks very much for listening to me. And they moved. The shadows. For a second I could have sworn they moved, but then I realized it was just a black cat walking down the sidewalk. When it saw me, it stopped in its tracks. The black cat, right? I tried to pet it because I love animals. Here, kitty kitty, I said, squatting and reaching toward the cat. In a flash, it swatted my hand away with its paw, drawing a few drops of blood. I yelped. I stood up and looked around. A friend was supposed to pick us up from the bus stop, but he wasn't there, and the cat was still staring at me. For a moment, I was tempted to just get out of the sun and worry about my missing friend later. Should I storm off? Because my rage is high. But I have nowhere to go, so yeah, let's just brush the rage aside and wait for him to arrive. The meeting was just too important. His name was Bartek. I'd met him online while researching Białowieża. The man knew everything there was to know about local history. I asked him to check if anyone in town remembered my grandparents. I hoped he'd found something, and so I waited. And the creepy cat waited with me. Bartek was 15 minutes late, flustered and apologetic. It was his dad's company, he explained while catching his breath. He had to help him out with some paperwork. Keep in mind that we are still intense and filled with rage about happened in our dream. I didn't really care. "You're late," I snapped, and there was something in my voice that made him take a step back. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had freckles all over his face. "Come on, I'll take you to your place." His accent was broad and very Eastern European. Anya would have liked him. Anya would have taken an immediate liking to him. He was totally her type, but she wasn't there. Her loss. We walked along the only street in the village, slowly making our way toward the outskirts. The trees were growing denser, their scent becoming richer and more pronounced. I took a deep breath. "So, did you manage to trace the name I gave you?" I asked. Bartek shook his head. "Nothing, absolutely nothing." "Sorry." He was avoiding my eyes. A trickle of sweat ran down his temple. He was lying straight to my face. "What the fuck, man?" I threw my arms in the air. "You wrote to me a few days ago that you had something." But he just climbed up. "You know what? I think you should drop it." I stopped. I definitely don't feel hurt, but then again, I'm not the sultry type of person. No, not myself, the character. I don't feel like as if I want to play her as such. So that was the final straw. Let's drive it to the edge. I turned to Bartek, grabbed his shirt, and pushed him hard against the fence. I'd always been strong, and anger made me even stronger. His feet lost contact with the ground. And then I came to my senses. I definitely cannot assault a stranger just because of that. I'm impaired now. I've lost willpower. I definitely need to find something. Then I managed to let him go. "I desperately need that information, I said, and helped him up. "Yeah, I see that." He laughed, a short and easy laugh. "The game tracks your decisions on how Maia approaches problems. They will accumulate and gradually reveal what kind of person she is deep in her heart. The story changes to reflect Maia's personality. Your willpower dropped to 0. When you lose all of your health or willpower, you become impaired. This will make physical tasks, if you have 0, or social and mental ones, if you have 0 willpower or health, harder and sometimes impossible." So now I'm impaired when it comes to social things, right? Well, he brushed his forehead with the back of his hand. "I did ask. I started with the old people here. I told them that my friend from the States was looking for her roots and wanted to know about the place her family came from. You know the drill. At first, people were very, receptive. I waited for the other shoe to drop, and then I mentioned your name." He shook his head. I don't want to lose my rage now. I urged him to continue. "Bartek, no dramatic pauses, please," I urged him. "The tension is killing me. One of the old men here told me to go to hell, the other spat on the ground, and his wife crossed herself. For a moment he looked younger and smaller, and then my own grandmother told me to stop asking. She said something else as well. That tensed me up." "What?" I asked. "She told me to pray for you." Jesus. Suddenly the sweet golden afternoon wasn't so sweet and golden anymore. Who was I? I don't want to be furious as of now, just like that. I looked at Bartek and I saw that the stories he'd heard had clearly strained something between us. He was afraid of me. Who was I? We walked in the silence, but my mind was in overdrive. People didn't want to talk, and that could only mean one thing. I was on the right track. People were scared of my family. Okay. And there is some progress in my goal. Cool. Let's find out. So we became brave a bit, a tad brave. Our condition is healthy. People were scared of my family. They didn't even want to hear my name. Yeah, Bartek is cautious. Oh god, I do have that tendency to drive people away, right? Every time you learn or do something significant that brings you closer to your goal, you regain willpower. Cool. Come on, Bartek. Bed and breakfast. Bialowieza had a few hotels and hostels, but the preferred form of accommodation was bed and breakfasts. That's where we stayed. I found one that was nice, clean, and that had good reviews. We had a room on the second floor with a huge window and a great view of the forest. I dropped off my stuff and freshened up a bit. Bartek said a few hasty goodbyes and disappeared, and Anya was nowhere to be seen either. The day was hot and I was restless. I decided to head out. Where did Bartek go, by the way? Before you go, check out your character sheet. Look for it in the upper right corner of the screen. You can find a lot of useful info about Maia, her background, personality, goals, and so on there. You can also check for your friends and who your enemies are. Okay. The game is already piquing my interest. Białowieża was a quaint tourist town, but I had other things in mind. Okay, the lay of the land. I had a clear goal in my mind. My family was entangled within this town and the forest. I had to uncover my roots. This is the forest that I had dreamed about, and this is the town my ancestors lived in. I really think I should go to town, meet some more of the people out there. I doubt that I'm gonna get anything concrete here, but then again, going to the forest, well, if I travel to the forest now, it's gonna be noon, so it's not bound to be that dangerous, right? So let's go to the forest. Let's go to the forest I dreamed about. Into the woods. It was dark in the woods, dark, humid, and chilly. The leaves didn't let through a lot of the sunlight. Daniel looked at me over his shoulder. How do you like her? We met maybe 20 minutes earlier. Bartek had told me Daniel was the best person to go to if I wanted to see the forest. Yeah, so I found him, and now here we were. So I wasn't sure whom he meant. He was a strange one. How do you like hair? Ah, he must mean the forest. So, okay, he was a strange one. Daniel was a strange guy. Daniel neutral. Slender but muscular. Not the CrossFit type. It was more the kind of strength you get from working all day long in the open. His skin was weather-beaten and bronzed by the sun. Like tanned leather, he moved in a very deliberate way. But his fingers were slim and delicate, and his eyes were the strangest shade of yellow-green. So he repeated, how do you like her? I wasn't sure whom he meant. Well, I am. Do you mean the forest? I asked. Polish was a strange language that gave the most unexpected genders to objects and ideas. I mean, Puszcza. He gestured around us. The word sounded like the wind rustling in the leaves. Puszcza. Puszcza is the right word, not forest. Forests are like fields of orchards, cultivated. He spat as he said it. And Puszcza, she's older than even the concept of fields. He was using the word as though it was a name. I stood there and watched the forest. I looked at Puszcza again. Yep, I looked at the forest. I looked at Puszcza again. I looked around with fresh eyes. Spiritual. I felt as though I'd entered an ancient tomb. Gigantic. Why am I spiritual? Am I spiritual, really? I am spiritual. Yeah, my spiritual is 4, so yeah. I felt as though I had entered an ancient tomb. Gigantic dead trunks were decomposing slowly around me, young plants and colorful mushrooms spouting from them. The trees, the still leaf stretched toward the sky like columns holding up the vaulted canopy, which blocked out all but a few rays of sunlight. There was a stillness and there was movement, darkness and light. If spirits existed, that place would be swarming with them. I loved what I saw. So Daniel is pathetic to us. There should be more places like this, I said earnestly, or more of this place. Daniel lifted his head and looked me right in the eyes. Yes, you're right, he said with a serious expression. Then I remembered why I was there. Perhaps he knew my family? Yeah. I won't skip the opportunity to actually ask about my family's whereabouts. I'm not from here, but my family was, I continued, and I think something secret connects me to this place. Daniel stopped abruptly and turned to me, watching me for a while. His nostrils flared as though he were tasting the air. He is sympathetic now. Yes, his face broke into a smile. I think our families might have known each other many winters past. Pushcha still remembers. Come on, he started walking. I know exactly what you need to see. That piqued my interest. I progressed towards my goal. My family had an old connection to the forest. So I was right. There was something hidden in my family's past, and it seemed to have a lot to do with the forest. With every step I was getting closer to solving the mystery. So I followed him. Okay, at the crossroads. We have to choose a path, he said. There's the old wolf den, or I could show you the barrows first, or a clearing that some folks call place of power. Is he reluctant when he's speaking to me? I just don't know. A place of power, magic, tourist trap, old stories, families divided, or barrows, ancient graves, buried secrets. And I like the map style, as if I'm actually looking at a map. It's so nice. Let's go to the barrows. Just one small thing. It's getting late. It's the afternoon now. Okay. We started walking, but after a few steps he stopped abruptly, like he remembered something. Then he turned to me. Could you do me a favor, please? He asked. It depended. I don't know, I said slowly. Why don't you tell me what you want first? He ran his hand through the moss on a dead tree trunk, smelled his fingers, and then reached into his pocket. He took out a small stone. Too small to be a weapon, 'cause I'm alarmed, right? It was barely a pebble, too small to pose a threat, although the brown spots on its surface looked like dried blood. I would like you to take this stone. He held out his open hand toward me, and throw it in the direction you think we should go. I did what he asked. It's just a pebble, right? Okay, I said, reaching for the stone. I took the stone and closed my hand around it. I was cute. It felt alive. I want to experience that. It was warm and I could feel it pulsating. I closed my eyes and thought about the barrows, trying to imagine that place. I smelled wet rock. It was cold. I was alone. My rage is high and I threw the stone. I felt my hand rising entirely on its own and then throwing the stone as far as I could. It was a good throw. The stone flew in a long arc over the bushes and disappeared without a trace in the dense undergrowth. Great, Daniel sighed. I was asking for that, wasn't I? What happened exactly? So the forest is sympathetic to us, and we've achieved the achievement Prodigal daughter, so we have returned back to our roots? What just happened? I was confused. You were accepted, he answered with a faint smile before he turned to head deeper into the forest. Okay, the forest accepted us as one of its own. The trail soon disappeared. Sometimes we walked along a barely visible path made by some animals. Sometimes we followed a stream or a gully, but for most of our trek, we walked through the dense undergrowth. I was getting impatient. The sun was barely noticeable through the dense canopy. I had no idea which direction we were going, and I was starting to doubt if Daniel did. It was a pleasant walk. Check out this here, it's fantastic. It was a pleasant walk, and Puscha is sympathetic. There was always a path through the brambles. The ground was even, and the branches stayed out of our way. I almost felt like the forest wanted us to find the way. I stubbornly pushed on. I settled into a steady rhythm and stubbornly pushed on. Focused on my goal, I fixed my eyes on Daniel's back and slowly zoned out, which was not very smart. I came to my senses when I tripped and almost fell. Watch where I place my feet and follow me, advised Daniel. We continued in silence. We'd been walking for a while when I noticed that Daniel's steps had become slower. He was also looking around more often and had hunched slightly. I just enjoyed the moment, and I lost a bit of a rage. I sat down on a fallen tree trunk, looked around, and just enjoyed that afternoon. After a moment, Daniel shook his head. "They are tricky to find sometimes," he mumbled. "Be quiet for a minute, please." That was when I felt it. Ash in my mouth, the smell of smoke and wet soil, and the pool. I knew where to go. "I think I know where to go," I said, surprised. He tilted his head. "Okay, let's check it out." I pointed to the barely visible path to my left under a dying tree. He followed me and I followed my feet, knowing exactly where they should go. Under the crooked tree, past the dead tree trunk and the sponge-like mushrooms, across the parch of wet, dark green moss, all the way to a place that didn't look much different than other parts of the forest, until you noticed the mounds. There was something about the flattened hills that drew my full attention. They must have been bigger in the past. I could imagine them vividly when they were built. The tall, proud barrows, the dead decomposing underground, returning to the earth, feeding all the new life that was growing from them. The trees around us were the fingers of the dead sticking out of the ground. And then it happened. It was a feeling anchored in my chest, akin to the taste of ash in my mouth and the smell of smoke. Longing, sadness, resignation. But there was more. A sense of scaredness. It filled me with the calm excitement, and when I closed my eyes, I saw a fire burning in the darkness. Voices. I'm brave. The village was burning and dead bodies were scattered among the flaming buildings. My hands were dripping with blood. The dying crawled toward me, some in ancient Roman armor, some in rags, some in uniforms from the world wars, some in modern camo. "Why?" they asked, spitting blood and broken teeth. "Why do you keep killing us?" That was who I was. Because that was who I was. When I opened my eyes, Daniel was watching me. "You were somewhere else," he said. "You said you had family here?" I nodded. "I heard that my father's family came from here," I nodded. "I don't know how much about them, though." He sighed. "I don't think you should be here," he said tersely. "You are not ready." He knew something. "Why? What do you know?" I wasn't letting it go. About you? Not much, but I know the Puscha. The past is close here." His eyes were worried as he looked at me. And if the pusher calls to you, it's wise to listen. But it's not wise to get lost in the voices. Come! On the way back, I was lost in my thoughts. The voices in the vision knew what I had to do. It's almost as though it was expected of me. Was this what my family did here? Why had Daniel asked about my family? Was the vision showing me what my ancestors had done here? I accepted that thought. Vision showed blood and fire in my family's past. I smiled. A bigger picture was finally starting to come to light. Killing was in my blood, and I feel that my willpower has totally filled up. So yeah, I feel as if I've found my purpose in life by discovering more about my family. The walk back was uneventful. Okay. I felt a little tired. The shadows of the enormous trees cooled the sweat on my skin. The taste of ash lingered in my mouth. I should go to... So from the barrows, let's go to the wolf's den. Hopefully we won't find any wolves there. The old den. The first thing I noticed when we stopped was a pine tree. A pine tree I knew. I remembered it, small, twisted and crooked, growing on the side of the hill, fighting for light and balance, robbed of level ground. It had to make do to adapt. Months before that, when I had decided to come to Poland, I had dreamed of that tree. I was sure of it, just like I was sure that under its roots I'd find a burrow, and a few feet away another one, like two dark eyes gazing at me as I approached. Daniel passed me and approached the tree. He pressed his cheek against the trunk. "Hello," he said quietly. I said nothing. Pushcha is neutral. Ah, is that because I didn't say hi to the forest? Okay. Let's see. I looked around, but we were the only people there, so I remained silent. A sudden gust of wind threw a cloud of dust in my face and into my eyes. "This is the den," announced Daniel. "It's abandoned, of course, but still worth seeing." Why was it abandoned? What happened? I asked. Humans happened, Daniel sighed. He sat under the tree, leaning his back against it. It was a hot morning when they found this den. No one knows who the men were, even though it was only one human generation ago. There were 6 cubs here under the roots of this tree. He had stopped stuttering and seemed to enjoy telling the story. I enjoyed listening. And I enjoyed listening to it. There was something calming in his voice and the way he talked. His slow gestures and wistful eyes made me feel as though I was with the cubs on that hot spring morning. "I don't think they wanted to hurt the wolves," he continued. "They probably thought they'd been abandoned. That's why they took the cubs with them. Humans have this instinct that makes you try to befriend everything, especially if it's dangerous." Not befriend, enslave. I actually agree with that notion. And this gives me rage now. "You mean enslave," I answered sharply, pulling something from the world and forcing it to work for us. I hated it, but it was how it seemed to be. I'm not saying it always works out, but the intention is good, and I believe the men who kidnapped the wolves wanted to do something kind, he continued. Anyway, they took them. Out of the 6, 2 lived to see the cold summer that year. The wolf mother used to come to the farm they were at and howl. People went grey if they heard her. I knew that howl. Was one of the pups myself, and the other possibly my sibling? And suddenly I heard that howl. I knew exactly how it sounded, and I felt despair and longing gnawing at my soul. I remember how the cubs had reacted. They threw themselves at the door. That's my mother we're talking about, right? Every time she came, we threw ourselves at the door, biting, trying to break free to escape. I realized that Daniel was silent. I met his gaze. Do you feel alright? Are you sad? Don't be. It's not all sad. I felt for the cabs. I just feel for the cabs. I know a little about divided families myself. Oh, yeah, that usually ended the conversation. Daniel sighed, looking at the tree and the burrow. The cabs that survived were sold to some people in Hejnówka, in a town near one of the centers of Orthodox faith and notable center of the Belarusian culture in Poland. One of the largest timber factories in Europe is located here. So were sold to some people in Hejnówka, but after a while, both of them ended up back in Białowieża with the scientists. They have a station in the national park. One of the wolves, Kazan, was a celebrity of sorts. If you saw any wolf photos from here, they were probably of Kazan. He was even on postcards. I hoped he didn't someone. I hope he at least bit someone, preferably in the neck. I was furious, and Daniel went neutral from sympathetic. So Daniel looked at me scornfully. The scientists never hurt him. Nobody wanted to hurt him, even the men who took the cabs. So who is that Daniel? I really sense as if he's some sort of werewolf. But then again, I see that he is plainly human because he reacts in a much more humanistic way. There was a slight gust of wind and the tree creaked. I remembered that sound from my dreams as well, a sound that made me feel safe. I looked at the empty den. Will the wolves come back here? I looked at the empty den. Daniel frowned. No, they won't. This place is cursed for them. We fell silent. He looked at the barrows for a long time. This place is my friend, so I try to keep it important and respect it. I think it's my mission, you know? I could relate to that. I think I understand. Every family had a story worth remembering. Daniel looked at the tree one last time. Goodbye, he said. I also said my goodbyes. So now the forest is sympathetic to me. And we left. The forest was alive around us. Vigilant but not alarmed by our presence, I kept thinking about the stolen cabs. Let's go to the place of power. And then we can possibly head back. Okay, it started with a hair on the backs of my hand rising, a buzzing in my ears. The air around me seemed brighter, lighter. The leaves of the tree trunks turned yellow and my skin started to prickle. I realized that I couldn't hear anything except for a low buzzing that was filling my ears. I was hot. My bones were vibrating, full of an energy I couldn't contain. I had to do something, snap out of it. I lashed out on the nearest tree trunk. No. I screamed. No. I willed it to stop. I can't act like that. I can't, just vent off my anger here and there. I frowned. Stop, I said under my breath sternly. And for a moment the buzzing did stop, though I wasn't sure if it was because of my words or because I was distracted by a shadow among the trees. A few feet from me there was a clearing. I could see the silhouette of a person moving slowly, deliberately there. I approached. The clearing was a plateau between huge boulders. There were double-trunked trees between the rocks and an angular wooden construction that stuck out of the ground like a sore thumb. There was a bike leaning on it, but more importantly, there was a man and he was moving in the most beautiful, harmonious way I'd ever seen. Could that be our brother, the wolf? The one who was taken by the researchers? Just don't know. But it was hypnotizing. Am I imagining things? I don't know. I couldn't stop looking at the way he moved, the way his muscles danced under his tanned skin. This man knew his body. He knew how to use it. It was his tool, his weapon. The energy that had been filling me earlier took form. It was flowing in rhythm with his steps, with the flow of his hands. The words came out of my mouth seemingly without my knowing. What did he do? How did you do? What did you do? He smiled. It's a little bit complicated. He stretched his hand towards me. I'm Cornel, he said, with a hard German accent. Shouldn't you be on the logging side? Daniel asked him after I introduced myself. I needed to center myself, he answered. The others are still there, don't worry. They were cutting down trees in this forest. Wait, logging here? I couldn't believe my ears. He smiled bitterly. Yes, logging here. That's why I needed to calm down. This place is special, Daniel said. Some people call it a place of power, as I told you. And they have good reason to, Cornel added. Look around you. So I looked. It was a clearing filled with light. I could see Cornel's traces, a beautiful pattern on the ground, but there was one thing that caught my attention more than anything else. The boulders around us were strange. These rocks, someone brought them here, right? I asked, looking at the boulders, which upon closer inspection formed a circle. The stones were regular and nestled deep into the ground. People believed this was a place of worship, thousands of years ago. Hence the fruit trees, the stone circle, and now the tower. And indeed, there is a lot of energy in this place. You felt it, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah, I felt it, I said without enthusiasm. The pushcha is wounded and in pain, and it calls out in rage to anyone who can hear it. Here, this call is louder. You see the logging. His eyes darkened. Is slaughter. He looked at the trees for a moment. Every priceless thing can be destroyed by greed. Logging is illegal, of course, but illegal is sometimes just a way of saying a bit more expensive but still profitable, especially for huge corporations. The forest is hurt, the wound is getting bigger, as is its desperation. It was wrong. Okay, he has gotten sympathetic and we have become a bit analytical. Cool. This is wrong, I heard myself say. There was no defiance in my voice, only cold certainty. This wasn't about anger, it was about that was right. Cornel regarded me for a moment with a faint smile. You have a connection with this forest, don't you? You should come to the logging site and meet everyone. I became suspicious. Did he know something about me and my family, about my dreams? The guy was acting a little like he wanted to draw me into a cult. Yeah, we'll see about that, I said, shrugging. He also shrugged. I didn't take you for the indifferent type. Guess I was wrong, but you can't escape your destiny. Well, wait a minute. He jumped suddenly and looked at the wooden tower and the bike I'd noticed earlier. Die Schwalbe is getting restless, he said, and as Daniel pointed out, I should be on the logging site setting up the protest. Schwalbe? What is a Schwalbe? I asked, confused. He named his bike Swallow, Daniel explained. He loves it very much. Cornel grinned. Oh, I do. Nice meeting you, Maia. All I wanted to do was get out of there. The moment he disappeared, the buzzing came back. It wasn't as strong as before, but I was there. All I wanted to do was get out of there. We went down through the greenery. The buzzing in my ears slowly decreased. So we can't go back. So let's make our way back to the town. The first evening, the B&B was quaint. Anya was sitting on her bed drinking tea. So what did you see? She asked. Oh, I went to the forest, of course, I said. I mean, it's the most important thing here, isn't it? I made a quick mental inventory of everything that had happened that day. They were cutting down the forest. I can't believe they're logging here, I shook my head. Isn't the forest on a UNESCO's list or something? Yeah, I know, there's an international protest going on, Anya said excitedly. I was there all day. You can come with me tomorrow if you want. Daniel was a strange guy. There's something strange about the forest guide. I tried to put my finger on it. He acted like he learned how to be human from a book he didn't understand. Hey, I think I heard about him today, Daniel, right? It seems he's the best guide out there. I was moved by the story of the wolves. I was told a story about the wolf cubs that were kidnapped and died in captivity. I sighed. It stayed with me, you know. It's awful what we do to animals, she nodded. Place of power sure made an impression. I went to this place of power and I felt a strange energy there. And there was the guy who really understood what I was going through. Oh, she looked excited. Mysterious energies in an ancient forest. So very magical, she laughed. I didn't feel like talking anymore, especially for the vision of the barrows. That's why I delayed about that. That's why I stalled and didn't say anything. I was just expecting for such a choice to make. You know what? I'm seriously tired. Let's call it a day, shall we? Soon we were both in our beds, ready to sleep. I was tired, sure, but also excited, and excitement isn't the best for sleep. I lay there for a while thinking about everything that had happened and that might happen next. The wind from the open window lapped over my skin as I watched the silver rectangle painted on the wall by the moonlight. When I closed my eyes, I could still see the weird vision I had that day. My roots were here, I could feel them, almost touch them, and they were reaching to me. I felt I was closer to getting my answers. I should go and see the logging protest. Cool. I felt that the answers I was looking for were within my reach. I should go and see the logging protest, find Cornell and make him talk. After a long while, all these thoughts became blurry. They slowly started to turn into pictures, sounds, and colors. And that's when I drifted off. Check out the blood moon. A night in the woods. In a big city, old men sit in leather chairs, lazily enjoying their ever-growing wealth. They watch Białowieża on flickering screens. They watch me. I feel the excitement rising deep within my stomach. Then, throughout my whole body, I am a weapon. I'm a razor-sharp knife, I'm a sword, I'm a gun waiting to be fired. I'm asleep for now, but soon someone will use me, and I can't wait. I feel a pull. I feel a pull and I surrender to it. I'm pointed toward a clearing. There are piles of fresh corpses of people who died too young, skinned and mutilated. Their loved ones stand around them, grieving, unable to do anything, waiting, and suddenly they are just trees and tree trunks. I howl. I look at the moon and I howl. The trees are dead, and I'm the only one left to sing their story. There is a stench in the air like meat rotting in acid, but somehow worse. I see the monstrous army. Their mandibles are whirling chainsaws. Their long metal arms are wrapped with black pipes and look like glistening intestines. Their smell is vile. They wait, unmoving. Could this be the machines, the logging machines, that Maia is describing in her vision? I will pay my respects to the dead first. I won't charge at them. I go to the dead trees, kneel next to them. Words come to me in a language that I don't remember, but that I know. Words about revenge and death and sacrifice. And then my voice tells me to look at the sky. There, between the stars, two shapes circle each other. An old sad wolf with grey hair and a white weasel. They keep their eyes on one another as they continue their dance, suspicious but not hostile. We need to find the enemy, the awful rotting stench. I know that much. But how can we do that when we don't trust each other? They stop, they look at me and the clearing. I challenge them. I'm brave. Puszcza is friendly now. Come here and face me once again. I don't recognize the words, but I understand. They come down to me, and their voice is the voice of the Puszcza. Welcome back. You've been away for too long a time. And I wake up. That's an excellent piece of story, really. It's fantastic. So, we've just finished chapter 1. It has been a really great journey. It's the visuals are so inspiring. The narrating is phenomenal, exceptional. It's so good. It really drags you into the story. The immersion is so great. The character building is excellent. Nothing bad actually comes out of this game. I'm really moved by such games as these. And to be honest with you, I was reluctant at first because I wasn't too familiar with a werewolf theme and all. But then again, after playing just a chapter, I only wish I could just finish off the entire thing in one go. However, sadly, I do have to stop now. And thank you for watching it with me today. If you like, please click. Well, you see that I'm actually stunned by it, right? So it's such a great game. I really want to play it once more. I really want to carry on playing it with you again. So check out on the next episode. We're gonna carry on with our story. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell button down below so as to be notified when a brand new video goes online. Let's follow Maia's story and see where the werewolf part kicks in. Thank you very much for watching today. Have a nice day. Bye bye.